So in our day 3, let me share my screen. So I believe this PPT already we have seen Java OOPS concept constructor. This was completed, and last session we have seen the use of this keyword: inheritance, aggregation, method overloading, overriding, covariant, return type. So all these things we have taken learned in detail. And now we have seen for constructor chaining, object creation, how this keyword is used. And when you are not writing, then if you are not writing implicitly here this dot m, your compiler is going to write this dot m for you. Okay. Then theoretically only we understand is a relationship and has a relationship, and then something for method overloading, overriding. And then we were doing some programs. So let me open my Eclipse. I believe we completed till program number 9. So we were in the program 10. So from here only we are going to continue. And do stop me if you feel that some doubts are not clear. Okay. Fine. So what we have seen here is in this particular code snippet, we were trying to pass object only in the constructor. So when I say b of b equal to new of b of this means the object which we have created. And we ran this program in the debug mode also, and we have seen when it got printed. So 10 was displayed. So when it was here, the object pass was object B of this class B. And when we came here, again, this object was the current object only of class A. Okay, moving to the next program. So we can use this because the meaning of this is the current instance of the class, or current variable, current instance variable of the class, or instance reference of the class, what we can say. So in this program, it's let me see, A1. Already we might be having this class. So A12. That is this function that can be just get a. Okay. So when the execution is going to start, our control will come here. And when it is going to come here, what it is doing, this part is creating an anonymous object of class A2. And this get a method is what? From that object, we are going to call this particular method, whatever method is written here. And then once you get the method, then we are doing .msg, means if we are when we can call any method like dot method, when this part will be the object, correct? Which means this get of a also should return me the object. Getting my point? Let me break something like this. Say suppose if I am having object as B, when I say B of get marks, if this is my function, which means this is function and this is object. And if I say B dot C dot get marks, which means this also should be object and this also should be object, or something like that, so that it should solve my purpose. So in this statement you are seeing this is a object which is a anonymous object, and this get a, if you are going to call, what is the return type of get a? Again, it's user defined type, that is a object, like I can say address of address. So again, object dot message I can do like this. So if I'm going to execute this, what is going to be the output? Any guesses? I'm waiting over chat. What can be output of this program?
Hello Java.
Hello Java. Okay. Lakshmi said hello Java. Yeah, that's fine. So from execution wise, what it did is, when we executed this, it went to get a, and it has returned the type of a, which means again the current object. So what was the current object? Current object was this anonymous object only. If the current object will be a1, a2, or e1, e2, it will be returning that object. And from that object, I can access any member of the object, any member of the class. And this message function is what? It's one member which is returning void. Means it's not returning anything. There is one SOP statement, that is hello Java, which got executed. Okay, so main intention for this program was to know that this keyword can be used to return the current class instance. Okay, let's move to next one. Okay. So say suppose we are having this class, we created one object, and with this obj, we are just printing obj. Whenever you are going to print the object, this object will be printing the reference ID. Okay, the way Java stored it. And from this, if I am going to call this method, again if I do SOP of this, so this is what? Again, this is a reference variable, which means the value of this is nothing but object only. Okay, I am not passing object here. Getting my point? I am not doing something like this. I am not doing okay. If say suppose I am having one more function as function n, and I can do x, and if I'm going to pass x here, obj.n, I will comment out this statement first. Now, when I'm going to execute this, what should be the output?
Reference ID.
Reference ID of object 2 times.
No, only.
Yeah. So why 2 times? Because this is first time it will execute, and it is going to go here and will execute this. Okay. Now what is going to happen if I am going to uncomment this and going to rerun the program?
3 times reference.
3 time reference, which means if I am passing obj in the function and putting this is going to give me the same thing. Not only then, if again I copy this statement and no print, I am going to get one more time the same thing, because now my reference object is obj and obj is only going to be printed here. Okay, fine. That is what I just wanted to show. Let's move to another one. Oh, now till this program number 12, we have seen all the programs related with this keyword. Now from here, we will be seeing how inheritance will be used in Java. So this is our first program, a single inheritance, simple program. We know the relationship between animal and dog. Dog is an animal, correct? Which means it is a relationship. And obviously animal is a superclass and the dog is having some special feature of animal. So this is generic. This is specific. So from generalization, you are moving to specialization in inheritance. Okay. When I say animal, if I say, you know, there was one animal was walking on the street, what is the image coming in your mind? Animal can be anything. Okay. Cat, dog, rat, rabbit. But when I say the cat was walking on the street, so you will be very specific. Okay. Having 4 legs, tails, teeth and all. Well, so let's see. The type animal is already defined. The type is already defined. Animal 1. Because in this example, there you will be having some more class with the name animal. So animal 1, and say suppose this is our dog1 class, and I'm going to create object of dog1 D. So we are having class 1, class 2 and class 3. So 3 classes are there. This is our main class. Main class is a class in which you will be having a main function. Fine. So this is my main class. And from the main class, execution is going to start. What I'm doing in the main class, I have created one object of dog. And what dog will do? Dog will bark and dog will eat. What animal do? All animals are going to eat. That is for sure. But only dog barks, like lion roars and the cat mews. So different animal with their specialization will be having different behavior. So I can say d dot bark. D dot bark when I do, which means from the dog object only, I am going to call the function which is inside dog, and it is going to print barking. But if I do d dot eat, can you see in my D object anywhere in my dog class, can you see any method with the name eat? No. So ideally it should give us error, but we can see here keyword that is extend. What this means is in our syntax also we have seen the moment we write extends any specific class, which means this dog will become the child class and this animal will become parent class. And after using this extend keywords, normally all the properties of parents child inherit in the real world. In the same analogy, if we do here, if there are, say, suppose 20 functions for animal, like animal sleep, animal, I can have void sleep as one of the function. All the animals are going to sleep. So d dot bar, d dot eat, d dot sleep also I can do. So when I say d dot eat, it is going to do something which is known as, again, constructor chaining with the super keyword that we will be using later. Internally, compiler is going to do something, and compiler is going to search if this eat function is there in its parent class or not. If this eat function is there in the parent class, it's going to execute. If this eat function is not there, we are going to get error here. Okay, so output is simple. Barking, eating is going to come. Let me close others. Okay. So sometimes with you also it's going to happen when you say run, and if you are getting the output of previous program, which means your configuration, run configuration, you need to set one more time. So right click, run as run configuration, you can click on. I'm clicking run configuration and Java application, select Java application from here and then run. Okay, so now barking and eating is coming. Very simple example. Let's move to second one, which is multi-level inheritance. When we say multi-level inheritance, that is grandparents, parents, and child, or for grandparent, that will be grandchild. So this can be, say, puppy class. And what we are going to do is, we have created object of puppy. Oh, animal 2, animal 2, dog 2, and dog 2. Fine. So animal eats, dog barks, and puppy weeps. So I have created object of puppy, and when I say d dot weep, it's straightforward. The weeping is going to be printed. When I say d dot bark, what this is going to do, our compiler will go and search, okay, there is no bark function written in my class, so it is going to see this extend keyword. It will go to the parent class, it will search here. Oh, there is a bark, so it is going to execute weeping, barking. And then when you say d dot eat, so in turn it is saying, okay, eat is not here, it is not here. Is it somewhere in the parent class of this parent class? So extend keywords is again there, animal 2. So my control will go here, and this eat function, it is going to take and execute. Output is simple: weeping, barking, eating. Okay, so that was example of multi-level inheritance.
Yes, one question I have. So
Yes, yes.
always we need to create the object of the child class, right?
No, say
Or
suppose if in case you create object of dog class, for example. Now, if you do d dog weep, you cannot access weep, because weep, your compiler is not going to find weep inside dog and the animal class. It is into some other class.
okay,
So you can always uh, inherit from your
it
parent.
will
We cannot
It
inherit
will,
from
yeah, it
child.
will search only extend one, it will search.
Yes, in the same class or the extended classes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, like, let's do this quickly. Doc2, doc2. See, it has given me the compile time error itself. Weep method is not there. Something it will be saying. The method weep is indefined in the doc type 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for asking this. Concept may be small, but don't hesitate to ask anytime you can. Hierarchical inheritance. So in our slide, we have seen inheritance, but hierarchical inheritance, say suppose animal, dog, cat is there. So animal is going to eat, dog is going to bark, and cat is going to mew. And I'm going to create, say suppose object of cat C, and if I do C dot meow, if I do C dot meow, it will go and see, okay, function is there, it is going to print this after execution. If I do C dot eat, so C dot eat also it's going to do, because in the animal it will get. But I cannot do C dot bark. If I do C dot bark, uh, your compiler will see in the cat class, do I have bark method? No. In the animal class, do I have bark method? No. And can I do something like this? Animal comma uh, dog, like hierarchical inheritance. So what it is saying, syntax error, which means you can extend only one class in Java. I cannot extend more than two classes in Java. I mean, more than one class in Java. Means I cannot extend two or three class, which means you will be having always one single parent for any child class for any specific moment. And then multi-level inheritance is there. So that parent may have parent, that parent may have parent, and the ultimate parent class of all the classes is object class in Java. There's a class, system defined class object. Your compiler will extends object. See, if I'm writing this also, it's not giving me any error. If I am not writing this, your compiler will automatically write whatever is your super class, or the topmost parent class. That class has to extend object class. Okay, that is why, that is how we are creating object. So all the basic functionality of creating object is coming from this object class. Fine. So I'm not writing it here, but ultimately your compiler is going to write. So if I execute this function, you will be getting output as mewing and eating. But if I remove this, you will get compile time error that we have seen last time itself. So hierarchical inheritance is not possible in Java. Second thing is, apart from that, multiple inheritance is also not possible, which means I cannot do A comma B. Already we have seen. Let me remove the error. A3, A3, B3, and B3. First error it is giving us here. Save for a minute Let's remove this and save. What this is saying, public keyword cannot be defined. Okay, so this has to be keyword, like these are keywords, but since I have written it in the capital, that was typo error, that was the reason it was showing us. Fine, so if I do like this and object dot message, it extends so there is a main class, and main class is extending the A3. It's not extending B3. So if I am going to execute this function, what is going to be the output? Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Why hello? Because it's extending A3 and there is no message here. So if we execute, it's going to give me hello. Now, why I cannot have something like this? Because if you have two parent class having same function, same signature, same function, message and message, and now if you put obj.message, just imagine, no, there is no compile time error for a second. Then your compiler is going to confuse which message I should call, whether I should call the message from parent class 1 or I should call message from parent class 2. So your Java don't want this kind of confusion. So what Java says, boss, I'm not going to support multiple inheritance at all. Every time you will be having one class, so you are not going to have this anomaly. Fine, so this is going to give us compile time error. Different, there is a compile error, all this. Fine. Let me proceed to the next program. Class operation. Okay, now in the last 3-4 examples, we have seen either relationship, that is inheritance, single inheritance, multi-level inheritance is allowed. Hierarchical and multiple inheritance is not allowed in Java. We have seen the example. Now let's talk about aggregation. When we say aggregation, it is has a property, which means if there is a circle, then circle will be having an area, and I can figure it out the area from circle class, or in this example, what we have done is we try to perform some operation on the circle. So there's a class known as circle. Let me copy this here. Okay. So object got created in my main class, and it's saying double result is c dot area, and I'm passing 5 in the area. And you know the area of circle is pi r square. And whatever this function is going to return, the result I'm going to print it here. Let's see what is inside this. So int of radius, so 5 is going to come here. I am saying op of new op operation. What is this? This is how we are creating object, that is kind of already the type of OP is defined. What is the type of OP? That is operation. This is one operation class. And in this operation class, you are having a single member, that is a function with the name square. And when you are going to pass any variable there, it is going to return x square. So x is passed, x square it is going to return you. Now what I'm doing here is my object is created and I am saying int of r square is op dot square of radius. So this circle will be having a radius, and from that radius I can calculate, I can do some operation on that, and I can calculate the area of that circle. So, when we are going to execute, we are going to get a result, whatever is will be coming from the calculation, 78.5. So this line means the main thing to understand here in this program is this two line. That is, in aggregation, we used to normally define the type of the variable. Say suppose if this is a student can have address, and student also will be one class, and address can also be one class, because address interns can have some different attributes like address line 1, address line 2, district, city, state, pin code. Correct. So address can have 5-6 parameters. So if there are 5-6 parameters, I can club it into one thing known as address. So I can have an address class. And then in Java, we will be seeing that we used to create POJO classes, plain old Java objects. And then we will be having a getters and setters. And on the basis of those POJO classes, it will be used. So kind of a small container for us. So circle has operation, you can say. So this result was coming. Let's move to another example. Yeah, the same example which I was talking about. Employee is there and employee is having address, and that address can have city, state, country, and other parameters also, kind of landmark, address line 1, or street number, something. So say suppose it's my address class 1. This is my constructor. One is also there. Say 12. Valve is also there. And then we are looking for employee class. And we need to have address passed here as well. Okay. Now this guy is saying me to must be defined in its own class. what error it is going to show me. So let me do one thing. Let me create a class itself with the name address 34 and we will move it there. New, I want to create class. Let's say class name as address 34. Public is there, inherited. I don't want the main methods, so finish. And let me put everything here. Sorry. Okay. Okay, that's done. Oh, sorry for taking this time. So let's understand what we are saying is in my main method, I am creating two objects, address 1 and address 2. And address 1 I'm populating as Ghaziabad, UP, India. And this can be, say, Bangalore, Karnataka, India. And how to go to any function, you need to put control or in Mac command and just click it here. So this is having one constructor with 3 arguments, that is city, state, and country. So cities, and this dot city, this keyword already we have used. So we are aware why that is being used. And if I want to go back, you can see these arrows there. You can utilize these arrows. Then another thing is I am creating two objects, object E, E1, E2 or E or E1. And here also what I'm going to do, I'm passing three parameters, employee ID, employee name, and the address. If I click on this address, it's of type address class. So employee has the address, that is the relationship which we want to show. So it is going to go into our, see, again, if I'm going to click it here, automatically it is going to take me to the constructor having the 3 arguments, ID, name, and address. This address is of type address 345 class, which we have written. And this thing is known as aggregation. That is has a relationship. So employee has the address. Fine. And if I'm going to execute this, we will be getting straightforward output, which we are thinking. Where is our output? Yeah, ID plus name. So ID plus name. And in the second line, object dot whatever a variable you want to access for that class. So in my address class, city, state, and country is there. And city, state, and country will be different for address 1 and address 2. That is going to print. So first line, second line. Address.city is Ghaziabad, address.state is UP, and then address.country is India. And for the same thing will be happening for employee 2, E2. Okay, we'll move to another program. 18. So let's go for 19. Now this is example of method overloading by changing the parameters. Class adder already defined. Right. So here, since it is static methods added, I have not created any object directly. I am what doing? Adder dot add and add. So now for time being, if you forget about whatever is written in the after add, so this seems to be similar, which means inside my adder class, I'm going to call some function with the name add. So you can have multiple functions with the same name, but with different signature. When I say signature, signature contains everything. Signature means the written type. Signature means the number of arguments and the type of argument. Basically, these three things make a method unique. When we say signature, so signature is unique for every person. Likewise, signature for every method will be unique. And this concept is known as method overloading. So here there was 2 arguments. Now here it is 3 arguments. What is the output of this program? 11 plus 11, 22. It is going to return 22. And when 22 is going to be the return here. So adder dot add of 11, 11. What it is saying? Return int. It will go inside this function. And in this function, you are having just one single statement, that is return a plus b. So value of a plus b is 22. So 22 is going to return into this int. And again, your control is going to come back and the value of this entire thing is 22. So when you say SOP, so in this bracket, value will be 22. 22 is going to print. In the similar fashion here, 33 is going to print because it is going to go into this function. So 22 and 33 should be the output. Okay. Now here we are changing the argument. Let's have adder2 class name. Now what's going to be the output of this program? Again, straightforward, simple. Int we have already seen in the last program. Now it is double and double. So you are having a same method add and you are having 2 arguments method. So number of arguments are same here, but the type of argument is different. So instead of double, if I pass 12, still it is going to take. Now, okay, let me execute this. This execution is simple. 22, 24.9. If I remove this, Can someone tell me what is the output?
22 for 4.22, 24.0.
So you are saying 22 and 24.0.
Yes.
Any other any different answer? Chetra is also 22, 24.0. Anyone having different answer? Okay, let's run and see. So why it is not 24.0? Because here you were seeing that, okay, I have done something like this, I have removed. In your mind, it is still float. But for compiler, there is no indication for compiler that this value you are passing is float. Correct? So what compiler thinks? Compiler thinks the data type of this is integer, which means it is going to call this add. Okay. Like if we are having doubt, what we can do is we can have an SOP statement. SOP of, say, suppose int and SOP of double. So you may also think, okay, still it is calling this double thing, and the return type is obviously not double, which means it has called our first function only. Okay, what is going to happen if I'm going to put SOP here? I cannot. See here, I'm getting error. What? It is saying unreachable code. So for return, there is a thumb rule in function. So return statement should be the last statement of your function. Because say suppose if it returns and your compiler is saying it's unreachable, this line of code is never going to execute. So compiler is giving us compile time error now only. What I will do, I will cut it here and run it. Sorry, I should make it double. Just a minute. Sorry. So you can see 22, and then both the times it was int. It was not int and double. Okay, well, I will put my initial thing only. Now, if you are going to do again, it will be 22 and double. Well, moving to next one. There is a concept which is saying method overloading is not possible by changing the return type of method only, which means, see, in the last program itself, when we were passing 1111, how your compiler is going to know that you are calling this add or this add? Because now you're calling from SOP. When you're calling from SOP, which means SOP can carry anything. It will give you no string variable. So there is no catcher for this return type, and I'm not specifying it. So here is the ambiguity. So if you do like this, here you can see error, duplicate method. So compiler thinks it's same method, because compiler is not going to decide when we do something like this. Okay. So only by changing a return type, that is only by changing int and double, we cannot do. At least apart from this, there should be a parameter also which has to be different. Okay, got it. So this was simple concept. We'll move further. Can we overload Java main method? Oh, you can see answer here itself. Well, so, or sometimes people ask, can I have multiple main methods in a single class? Is it possible to have multiple main methods? So you can see this is what we normally used to write. Main with string array and main with just one simple string parameter, and this is main method without any arguments. If I'm going to run this program, main with the string, so by default it is being called. So yes, by method overloading, you can have any number of methods in Java by method overloading, but JVM calls main method which receives string array as argument only. Okay, programmatically, you can have, because there's a concept which is known as method overloading. So Java is following the concept. You are not violating any rule. So you can have different main method with different signature, but in your memory, first JVM is going to load your main method. So out of so many different signature, JVM will be looking for this method only. Don't think that, okay, I have written here in the line number 1, that's why it's coming here like this. If I cut it and say, suppose if I put in the bottom also, clear it and going to run, it is doing. Because however execution starts in a program, execution starts always from the main method, correct? So when your dot class is going to be generated, it is going to see the relevant main method. This is not, this is not, this is not. And once your execution of this main method is completed, your controls goes away. Everything will be garbage collected. So these methods are not used. Now we can, because this is a method only. What is going to happen if I try to call this main method from some other method? Is it possible to call that? Can I do something like this? Can I do like this? Yes or no? Simple answer.
Yes.
Okay, because it's simple method only. And if I'm going to do like this, this is going to execute. Now from main, I can directly call this. Since it's single class only, I need to create any object for that. And if it is another class, since it's static, I can directly call from the class name dot the method. So this many functions means whatever main methods you are going to write, it will be unused if you are not going to call it explicitly, which means your JVM is not going to call this. Programmer has to call whatever main methods you are writing, apart from the main method with the string arguments, a string array argument. Fine, moving to next one. Method overloading with type promotion. Now in PPT, you might have seen that chart where I was explaining, the smaller can be promoted to bigger, bigger cannot be demoted to smaller implicitly. So now we have this created object, and this is an example of method overloading where you are having some with 2 parameters and some with 3 parameters. What is the difference? Difference is it is int and it is long. When I say long, if I do 20L, 20L means I am saying it is long, and I am going to run it. I'm going to get result as 40 and 60. But if I don't say L, which means what I'm passing int and int. In this, I'm passing int, int, and int. Okay, this sum is fine, int, int, int. So data type is same. But here data type is int and int. And int is small, and small can be, small means small in size. So int can be promoted to long. So this is simple 40 and 60, but if I am doing here 20L, so type promotion is possible, but type demotion kind of thing is not possible, which means now my, what other see it is giving? It is saying object sum 2020. See, it is saying the method submit int long in type this is not applicable for the argument int long. It's very small to read, but I read it and showed you. So what it is saying int and long. I'm not getting anything here int and long. If I do something like this, long of C, then it's going to work. Okay. Now, if I remove this, what's going to happen? If I'm going to remove this, it will be calling this method only. Okay. Now, if I remove this, still it is going to work. Why it is going to work? Because of type promotion, which means you are passing int, but compiler is adjusting it because the smaller value can be adjusted in the bigger house. For example, if you are having 2 container and the capacity of one container is 1 kg and the capacity of another container is 2 kg, and you went to the market and you just want to buy 1 kg, say suppose mangoes, you can put in the 1 kg container, you can put in the 2 kg container also. But say suppose now you are having 2 kg, 1 kg container, and then you go and you think of buying 2 kgs mangoes in 1 kg container. That's not possible. So this is what it's saying. So I will just do Control Z for everything, whatever I have explained. Fine. Any doubt? I believe it's clear. Postmortem kar diya. So next program is overloading with type promotion if matching founds. Yeah, we have seen this already. When I say object of sum 2020, when we are having to int A, int B, it is going to int arg method invoke. That is going to be the output, correct? Okay. And if I do something like this, 20L, 20.8, 20.8 is not possible. Long can be upgraded to double, double cannot. So if I do 20L and then 20L and 20L, what do you think? What will be the output of this?
First one would be int argument method invoked. Second one will be same can be long, right? Integer can be long, right? So long
Integer
argument
can be promoted.
long argument method
Okay,
invoke.
so
Second, third is same long argument method invoke.
okay, fine. So it's clear. Okay. Why I'm just commenting it out so that when I will be handing over all these SRC folders to you, that time it will be easy for doing the reading it after some time, if in case you have, if you are not implementing right now in your product. Well, method over with type promotion in case of ambiguity. Ambiguity comes where your compiler is not able to decide. So int long int 2020. Now your compiler is confused which one I should call. Type promotion is fine. So if this 20 is there, either it can go here also, and for type promotion it can go here also. And same thing with here. So here you are going to get error. The method submit So what I was saying is, if I do 20 and 20L, then it found exact match. There is no ambiguity. And if I do something like this also, 20L, here also exact match, this second one. But if I do 2020, then there is no exact match. That is how the ambiguity will be there. Fine, we'll be moving to the next one.
Sorry, 1 second, Sagar.
Yes, yes.
Here, ambiguity means the integer can be converted to long, right?
No, integer can be converted into long is called as type promotion. Ambiguity means ambiguity means confusion. टू कंपाइलर वो डिसाइड नहीं कर पा रहा है कि मुझे इसको कॉल करना है कि इसको कॉल करना है. That is ambiguity.
Okay. Means two method with same name, that is the confusion actually?
No, the method can be of same name, but it's same name and same similar kind of parameters. Say suppose if I am going to call, if we execute this 20 and 20. So for 20, this is also okay. And for the first parameter as 20, this is also okay because it can do the type promotion. And the 20 can be converted into long. If I go and start matching second parameter, this is also okay because type promotion will happen, and this is integer. So by doing this, your compiler is confused. So it is not giving you runtime error. Right now in the compile, so there are two kinds of error. Before executing Java C command, whatever happens is known as compile time. So your compiler itself is saying, boss, no, this is not possible. I am not able to decide which one to call. You have to be more specific while calling this. So if such scenarios happens, then programmer has to explicitly, no, explicitly mention the type of argument which he or she is sending.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. We'll move to next one. That is, let's understand the problem what we face in program if we don't use method overriding. Okay, method overriding. So overloading is within the same class. And when we say overriding is with respect to the either relationship in inheritance. Again, so vehicle is there, and vehicle can be bike, car, truck, anything. Now for this bike object, I am saying run. So if I run this, vehicle is running. So it was just one single function only that is run in your parent class. From the child class, when I called, it ran. Now in the second example, if we see vehicle 1, next is vehicle 1, and this is my object. Okay. One more braces is missing, I believe. Yeah. So in the previous program, what we have seen, we just had one run method. We executed, vehicle was running. Now here we are having two methods, that is run and run. And now if I'm going to execute this, what is going to be the output? Any guesses?
Bike is running safe.
Bike is running safely. Okay. So why so we have defined the run method in subclass as defined in the parent class, but it has some specific implementation. The name and parameter of method is same, and there is a relationship between class, so there is method overriding. That's fine. So every time whenever inheritance is there, or whenever we talk about riding, from generalization we used to go for specialization, as I told earlier, because vehicle is running, that was fine, but I override the run method according to my bike. So this bike is running is only going to be the output. Let's see. So this is rate of interest. I'm having one parent class as bank, and SBI Axis is going to extend bank, and the rate of interest are 8, 7, and 9 for them. And here rate of interest is, say, suppose 0, or maybe the minimum rate of interest, say 5 rate of interest, anything like that. And I created 3 objects, one for SBI, ICICI, and Axis. And if I'm going to s dot get rate of interest, what it will do? It's going to return corresponding overridden method. So rate of interest for SBI is different, ICICI is different, and Axis is different. So this is very simple concept. We may use get rate of interest of this bank. If I comment this, now what will be the output? If I comment this and going to run this, you can see for SBI it was 8. For this it was 9. For ICICI, because ICICI may be the bank which has not started its operation, initial phase. And so its rate of interest is the default rate of interest of the any bank, which is 5. Which means for these two classes, method overriding happened. For this, there is no method overriding. So can we override static method? So your answer will be always no, because static method cannot be overridden. Why it cannot be overridden? Because of the runtime polymorphism that we will be seeing later. What is runtime polymorphism? We have not learned polymorphism concept yet. And why we cannot override the static method is, as you know, the instant method is bound with object. Static method belongs to the class, and everything will be stored in the heap, whichever is for instance variable. Another question was, can we override Java main method? Again, the answer is no, because that is a static method. Okay, so in nutshell, we cannot override static methods. That is one thing which you can remember. And this was example of covariant object, class A3. Seems we are having A3 already. Okay. So when we say return of this, means whatever is the current object, that time it is going to return this. The same example which we have seen. Welcome to covariant return type. So what happened here is, this is the anonymous object which got created when you are going to call get method. So we are having get method here, and we are having get method here. We are having get method in the child class and in the parent class also. So and so the instance of the child will be returned, and from the child class you can see this message is in the child class. That is why you can access it. Say suppose if the instance of the parent class will be there, then you won't be getting this output. Okay, that was our first super program, simple Java. Well, so
yeah, if the parent class
sorry,
last program, can you please go to if the parent class is having the same method message, then it will be ambiguity kind of thing, not understand, or it will always call the child class method first.
That is what we have learned here in this example. We are having run method in parent class, run method in child class, correct? There is no ambiguity. This concept is known as method overriding, which means here it was generic, here it is specialized. So your conclusion is correct that always it will call child class method if method is there in the child class.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so this is what we have covered today. Apart from this, maybe few concept is what we can see. Super keyword instance, IIB, final keyword and runtime polymorphism. And then we can do programming later. So there are just 4 slides. Let me go through it quickly. So like this, super is also a keyword. And this keyword is also used in reference to reference variable, which refers immediate parent class object. So this also refers object and super also refers object, and both are reference variable. But the main difference is this refers your current object and super refers your parent object. Okay, so super can be used to refer immediate parent class object. Again, when you are having a multi-level inheritance, say suppose animal is there, dog is there, and puppy is there. So if you are in the puppy class, when you do super, it will always refer dog, not the animal. Second, super can be used to invoke immediate parent class method. Same thing. And super can be invoked to immediate parent class constructor. From this, we can have the constructor also. How our entire inheritance is happening in Java, your compiler will explicitly write this statement that is known as super. As in constructor, we have seen if we are not writing this statement, your compiler is writing. So suppose if I am having a class bike, and when I am creating a constructor of that, so super can be the first statement, and we will be seeing either super or this can be the first statement of your constructor. We cannot have any other method apart from this or super in the first line of constructor. That is what your compiler will always be taking care. So when we will be doing more example, it will be more clear. IIB, instance initialization block. This is used to initialize instant data member. It runs each time an object class is created. So syntax wise, if you see, syntax is nothing but in my class, this is my class B, and here I am having a constructor, and my constructor is starting from here and ending here. So this is constructor, but there are 2 curly braces, and whatever is written inside 2 curly braces is known as IIB, which means if these 2 curly braces are inside the class, it is known as class. If 2 curly braces are inside a function, that is known as function. If these 2 curly braces are inside your constructor, it is constructor. But if there is nothing on the top of this 2 braces, curly braces, then this is known as instance initializer block. And when we say instance, which means every time whenever your object is going to be created, when the instance of class is going to be created, this is going to be called automatically. So 3 places in Java where you can have method, constructor, and block. So method also we have seen, constructor also we have seen, and this is the third thing, that is block. The instance, the IIB is invoked after parent class constructor is invoked. That is after super constructor call. Which means in the programming, when we will be doing program and seeing if I am going to create object, and for creation of that object, if your parent, if there is inheritance, first it is going to do the constructor creation of your parent object, then your IIB for the current class is being called. And the IIB comes in order in which they appear. It's not like function, because functions explicitly we used to call. But say suppose I'm having three IIB1, IIB2 and IIB3. So sequentially it is going to execute. That is the meaning. And in Java, we are having a final keyword. So final keyword we are going to use in many places like variable, methods, and class. And the final itself is saying is, boss, this is final, you cannot change it. So if I put final in front of variable, I cannot change value. If I'm going to put final in front of method, I cannot override that method. Which means in my parent class, if I'm having some function which is final, I cannot override that function in the child class. And in the class, if I say final, which means it is going to stop inheritance, means the final class cannot have the child class. So that is where the final keywords is going to use. There is something called as blank final variable or unin final variable if you don't have any variable, any value in that. And it can be initialized in the constructor only in case if you want to initialize. The blank final variable can be static also, that will be at class level, which will be initialized at the static block only. And then again, we will be seeing more implication of final. Last slide is about our runtime polymorphism. What is runtime polymorphism? So the concept of polymorphism you might have learned in your science class in maybe 9th standard or 7th standard, that charcoal and diamond is a polymer of carbon. So graphite and diamond. So graphite is also made of carbon, but it will be in the layer structure, and diamond will be in the crystalline structure, which means same form acting differently. So here also in Java, if you can have that analogy, in the runtime, we also called it as dynamic method dispatch, because dynamically at the runtime, it is going to be decided that which specific method is going to be called. Example can be, say suppose, same example, bank was there, get rate of interest, SBI, ICICI and Axis. When I do get rate of interest, it depends which specific object we are creating. On the basis of that is going to decide which at the runtime it is going to decide which specific method is going to be overridden. Okay. And there is something known as upcasting. The way we understood type promotion, so int can be promoted to long is what we have seen. Int can be promoted to float. In the same way, if I do new of B, which means it's class B, is the object of class B, but you can see the user defined variable type is class A, and this concept is known as upcasting, means your child class can be upcasted to the parent class. So this we are going to see it in the example. At this moment, if you are not understanding also, that's fine. So maybe program is what we can do it, those program we can take it in the next session. probably on Wednesday and the Friday only. I'm going to keep it in the next week.